Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And welcome in Purple Daily. Daily, meaning literally every day, even in June, if you're new to the show here. Even in the dead of the offseason, we are your friends talking Vikings every single day. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. And as the sports dad knows, having covered football for over half his life, a lot of that groundwork gets laid during these summer months. Who's putting the work in? Who's not?
It's a tough time of year, man. It's a tough time of year because now you're on vacation. But if you're a guy, let's say on the bubble, you're sweating it out. Training camp's a month away. You can't go on vacation. You got to keep working. You got to go to your local high school, run some patterns.
Or if you're, the quarterback that just got drafted and the media is asking you at the end of OTAs last week. So where are you gonna go get off to some warm location? I mean, Minneapolis is warm right now, but like some tropical location. He said, no, I'm going to be in the facility every single day, JJ McCarthy said, grinding, building habits that lead me to success. I'll mix in some golf rounds, but
I thought he said he was going to take Tuesdays off. I'm sorry about that. I must have not.
No, we can go back and roll the tape. Pretty sure he's going to be in there double time on Tuesdays.
Not to derail things, but what do you guys make of the, I would not call it reports. I would call it the chatter. There's chatter about McCarthy wants his signing bonus all guaranteed. And there are I've heard it from
he wants it all up front.
Up
right?
front. Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant guaranteed up front. But I've heard it from some credible sources that he does want that. That's not a fake. But if they're not going to do it, does he not show up for training camp, which would really fly in the face of all of the things he's saying and I think his personality.
I mean,
it's just a weird thing, and I'm yet to see any credible reports saying what the result would be if he doesn't get it all up front.
So what's the precedent? This is where I'm confused. So a signing bonus. So sometimes signing bonuses so it's your money up front, but it's really not. It's deferred and paid out in installments sometimes. Is that?
That's what. Yes.
Why wouldn't you? I'd want the signing bonus if I were him to give me. It's $23 million. Is that what it is for?
I'd have to
the 10th overall pick. Just give me this. Yeah, give me the signing bonus.
And it's not unprecedented for quarterbacks to get that. So I guess the Vikings aren't in the habit, or they have not done this previously with draft picks. Now you could argue the Vikings also have never had in their history, much less the salary cap era, they've never taken a quarterback top 10. So I'm not even saying I'm picking sides here. I would probably just give him the money and say, You know what, dude, you're a quarterback. We just bent the rules for a guy who spent, 2018 to 2023 here and won one or two playoff games?
The Vikings are worth multiple billions of dollars. The Wilfs are worth multiple billions of dollars. This is your first ever top 10 quarterback. He's your quarterback of the future. Just give him the signing bonus up front. Unless I'm missing something.
That's what
is he going drastically against the wave of what's normal for a top 10 draft pick? Do Mark and Alex have the money?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just a weird.
Maybe we can get what's his name, Bloomberg in here to help both the Wolves and the Vikings come up with enough money.
It's a weird thing because it's definitely a thing, but what no one's clarified is what type of thing is it? Is it a I don't like this? Okay, I'll see you at training camp, or an actual threat of some sort?
Yeah.
Just hanging out there, chatting.
I've seen those reports too. It doesn't seem to make a ton of sense. We'll see if it becomes a real thing when training camp rolls around. On today's episode, Judd brings, speaking of training camp in a few weeks, 5 sleepers on the Vikings offseason roster heading into Vikings training camp. Guys that might be sleepers to snag a 53-man roster spot or sleepers to snag a starting spot. Either on the 11 side of the defense or the offense. So we'll get to that after we shout out our friends at Quick Trip here to start this Monday show.
Quick Trip. What does that mean? Okay, you hear the words Quick Trip and you think, okay, quick. But how about if I told you the Quick Trip has found another way to make your stops for, let's say, some of the delicious food that you are checking out right now? If you are watching this show, they make your trip as quick and easy as possible. And now they have their select order aheads in your quick rewards app plan. Take care of the payment ahead of time. Orders can be picked up in store or brought to your car curbside. Order all your quick trip favorites. We're talking fried chicken, pizza, take-home meals, and be sure to look for additional fuel savings by ordering ahead. Yes, it's that simple. So again, what does Quick Trip mean? Quick Trip means easy. Quick Trip means simple. Quick Trip means convenient for you, the customer. And of course, we always appreciate you sponsoring those who help or supporting those who sponsor us. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Okay, where do you want to start here? 5 sleepers, Judd.
Well, first of all, there's some rules here. I laid some ground rules. So, like, I'm just not going to go across the board and say, yeah, I'm taking all 53, or I could take all guys from the current 90-man roster. So here are my guidelines. No rookies or first-year players. Because, first of all, the rookies are I don't see them as sleepers. I tried to keep this down to a list of 5 guys that I saw as being legitimate candidates to contribute and or they have to prove themselves more. I also left off Lewis Cine and Andrew Booth. I feel like we've talked about them a ton, and I feel like their background is well known here.
Well, that'd be a plot twist if Lewis Cine went from being a first-round pick to then, like, a couple of years later, he's now a sleeper to make the team.
Exactly. And Booth was a second-round pick. I sort of felt the same way about him. And again, he's a guy who's had his chance as well. Yeah. Like, he has started games. He just hasn't taken advantage yet. So I'm going to start at a bottom of a list of 5 guys. And I sort of also drew the same parallels here for how we used to do Mr. Mankato. So I stayed away from first or second round picks, third round picks and on. Okay.
Oh, so this is kind of a Mr. Mankato hybrid exercise. It's like a spin-off of Mr. Mankato.
Exactly right. Exactly right. But I tried to be creative, at least a little bit. All right. So number 5, Brian Asamoah. So he's had his chances since being a third round pick in 2022. But he's never been a starter. So here's what makes his situation at least somewhat compelling. Okay. Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace are your starting linebackers inside. Now the question is, okay, what happens if one of them goes down? And before you say, whoa, sports dad, so negative here. Why are you being, what if one of them goes down? What?
Well, it's football.
It's football, and Cashman has a precedent here. Battled injury issues in his first 3 years with the Jets. So before he went to the Texans, he played in only 14 games in that time.
Yeah.
So it's not unprecedented for Blake Cashman to miss time. Asamoah has played in 29 games as a Viking. He has no starts, played in 61% of the special team snaps in his first 2 years, but his defensive snap count actually reduced from 11% in his rookie year to 4% under defensive coordinator Brian Flores last year. So Brian Asamoah, I believe there are 7 linebackers coming into training camp. So there's 5 guys vying for a position as a primary backup. Brian Asamoah is number 5 on my list of guys who are sleepers who have a chance to get back into, in his case, the good graces and to establish himself as at least a backup candidate atop the depth chart behind the 2 starters.
I'm going to put some respect back on his name because I thought we pronounced it Asamoah.
Oh, Asamoah. Yeah, okay, you're right.
So you're disrespecting him.
I'm disrespecting him.
It is Asamoah.
Yep.
Asamoah.
Yep.
If he's going to be on the sleeper list, I feel like we should give him a little bit of
Asamoah. You're right.
Or are you saying unless he makes the 53 and plays more than 4% of the snaps, then he doesn't deserve his name to be pronounced?
No, he deserves the respect. I apologize. Brian Asamoah is number 5 on my list.
So last year, here were the linebacker snaps. For the whole season, there's like 1,100 available defensive snaps. Mm-hmm. So Cam Bynum played basically all of them. Harrison Smith and Josh Metellus played basically all of them. Danielle Hunter came out the field a little bit for some breathers, but he was out there for 1,000 snaps. So 1,100 snaps is you being out there as a full-time, every snap defensive player, no injuries. Mm-hmm. So Jordan Hicks played 813. And he's gone, but Cashman steps into his spot.
Sure.
Ivan Pace Jr. close behind at 704. And then you got to go all the way down to Troy Dye playing 112. Anthony Barr played 48. How about that? Remember, he was on the team for a while last year?
Yeah.
And then Brian Asamoah played 36. So they really only sparingly used a third linebacker. So I think Asamoah, it has to be injury. It would
Yeah.
The only path to playing time on the defense, not counting special teams, would be if somebody gets hurt.
Yep.
So he's and this is year 3. It's time to show something. People thought he was going to be given a chance last year. The fact that he didn't even really get a chance to be on the field and he was behind Jordan Dye and Anthony Barr on the depth chart was very telling.
Yep. So he's 5, and yes, I think in a perfect world, he still plays a ton of special teams, and this is going to sound really sad for a 3rd round pick. He steps into the Troy Dye role, which is, hey, I'm the backup, but then again, if somebody gets hurt, you're going to end up playing. All right, number 4.
Okay, here we go.
Number 4 on my list is a guy who continues to get enough action, at least he did in the off-season camps, that I'm curious here. Because he disappointed them last year. He was hurt a lot. Kene Nwangwu. So this team's got, obviously, Aaron Jones starting. They've got Ty Chandler. But then they really don't have a third guy right now. It's, Dwayne McBride's there, but he's a late round draft pick a year ago himself. Nwangwu's a guy who I actually think they like his abilities, sort of a scat back, a smaller guy, obviously with a different incarnation of the kickoff. A couple of years ago was outstanding there. But he hurt his back last year in training camp, and I'm sure it was a problem. He missed a ton of time, and I sense some frustration from the coaching staff as that time went on that he didn't come back. His games played have gone from 11 as a rookie to 17. So he played in every game 2 years ago. It was only 9 last year. Last season of his contract, I think they want to give him a real chance to win that third role. And I also think that they could see him potentially fitting in the new kickoff, or at least getting a look there. But he has to stay healthy. He has to be on the field, and that starts in training camp. So number 4, Kene Nwangwu, entering the last year of that contract.
What's odd about him, even in college, so he was a 4-year running back at Iowa State. He was teammates with Brock Purdy, right? For at least a couple years.
Yep, at one point.
But he barely touched the ball on offense in college. That's the crazy thing. So here's his carries by season. As a freshman, 27 carries. Then 39 as a sophomore. Only 16 carries as a junior. Mm-hmm. And then 61 carries for 339 yards as a senior. So even in college, they didn't... and by the way, but he must have caught some passes, right? No, 4 years in college. He caught 7 passes for 57 yards. He did not catch a pass with the Vikings last year. So to me at this point, if his college coaches didn't trust him to take a handoff or catch a pass, and if 3 years in the NFL, his Vikings coaches across 2 different regimes, by the way, haven't trusted him to catch a pass or carry a handoff, he is exclusively a kick returner in my mind. Yeah. I mean, he'd have to show you something he hasn't shown in 7 years of college and the NFL to be a guy that you trust handing the football to. Yeah,
I don't think you're going to. I don't think he's ever going to be a primary type, but I do think that he has a chance to win that third role. And if he stayed healthy and could play, I would be curious if they would incorporate him at all. I mean, it would be a specialist trick type of play thing. And yes, the kickoffs are his top thing, but I think if the coaching staff didn't like him at all, I think he gets an injury settlement to go away last year.
A structured settlement?
Yes. So clearly there's something that they like about him. So I do think he's going to get a shot. I think if he gets hurt again, though, that's probably it. So it's up to him. And yes, I'll go back to what I told you guys from the mini camp and the OTAs. The one thing we never saw a kickoff formation. We never saw a kickoff. all done behind the curtain.
When the fans show up, are they going to just have a gigantic curtain just across?
U.S. Bank Stadium, don't forget, had to pay a lot for those curtains for the Final Four. Those curtains are still somewhere in storage. What if they just pulled them out, put them all around the field, and that was it? You didn't get to see the kickoffs.
Yeah. Well, could they use the curtains that the Timberwolves aren't using anymore from the upper deck now that fans are showing up?
I think those are actually, I'm not sure that those are sufficiently big enough, but the U.S. Bank ones for the Final Four are huge.
Those old Metrodome curtains that were white and dusty.
God, those would be big enough. Where do you think those are now? Landfill?
I mean, the Twins auctioned off the troughs at one point, so you'd think that they would. I mean, they're auctioning off the thing that people peed in for 3 decades. They would probably auction the curtains off too, right?
Where are the pictures?
Yeah, they have to have those.
There's huge pictures. What, Puckett was a picture?
Puckett, Herbeck.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson was up there.
Where are those?
Carew, yeah.
I'll have to ask Clyde about that.
Yeah,
Clyde
investigate.
All right, number 3 on my list. This is a guy who I think actually could have a real chance to play here. So the first two guys, I'm talking about guys that you know, they'll be given opportunities, but this is a really intriguing one to me. Nose tackle, Jaquelin Roy.
Okay.
All right. So I think we sort of forgot about him. 5th round pick now a year ago. So a year ago, April. Played in 12 games, made 1 start. But so he was shifted to nose tackle in his junior season at LSU. Finished that year with 49 tackles, 3.5 tackles for a loss, and half a sack. He is 6'3", 305 pounds.
Yeah.
So he's a big dude. I wouldn't call him massive, but I think he fits into their defensive structure. And don't forget, he was a 5th round pick with Brian Flores there. I think there's a big difference between the guys that were taken with Donatel, and I don't know if Easy Ed had a lot of say there or not, but clearly those guys, for the most part, have not panned out. Jaquelin Roy, to me, is a very interesting one because I think if he emerges after a rookie season in which he was clearly eased in, I think he's got a real chance to start. So he is a position right now that I think is really open for interpretation about where it's going to go. I think on the defensive line, and he's technically behind Harrison Phillips, but I'm not sure that means that he couldn't find a spot there, and certainly playing time there. So he is 3rd on my list.
Yeah. Well, they're open for business for anyone that wants to step up on the interior and just do something. So I'll give you this one. All right. Go back to 2021 when he was 2nd-year starter at LSU, or 2nd-year regular playing time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's college, but it's the SEC, and you're going up against a lot of future NFL offensive linemen or NFL caliber guys. And he finished among all interior defensive linemen, of which there were, my God, how many qualified? Couple hundred? 300? Call it like 400 plus qualified interior defensive linemen. He was 4th, according to Pro Football Focus, in pass rush grade. So he was generating a pressure on like 1 in every 8 dropbacks. He dropped off a little bit in his last year, but it's been in there at a high level in college as an interior pass rusher.
Yep.
And that's the Vikings' biggest defensive bugaboo. They just don't have. Yep. I mean, what was the number from last year? The Vikings were. It was like an 8% interior pass rush win rate, or
not good enough.
Something ridiculous.
Not good enough.
Dead last in the National Football League. So, yeah, Jaquelin Roy, I like this one.
And it dropped off, I think, in part because he was shifted from an defensive end. But I think did they play a 3-4 there? They might have. And he got shifted to nose tackle. So, like, the nose tackle, it's going to not be as easy to get a push at times. But, yeah, I think, to your point, open for business is a perfect term here. Like
it's true.
That one's wide open.
He played several more A-gap snaps.
A-gap. Football. Yeah, that's what I want.
Which would be your nose tackle position. But, yeah, someone to watch. I like. That's my favorite one of the 3 you've listed. I guess I feel like I kind of know what Kene Nwangwu is at this point. And then Asamoah, I don't know. Last year should have been the year for him,
Yeah.
and he got absolutely beaten
fair.
out by an undrafted rookie free agent, and the ship has sailed. So,
So on Roy as well, just as much as the pass rush, I think here's my question: can he eat up running backs? So can he cookie monster them? So when they come up that A gap, can he
is for B gap.
Running back, yum. Can he do the cookie monster? All right. Number 2 on my list. Edge rusher Andre Carter II.
Yeah.
Now, this is a dude that we talked about a lot last year, because if you guys recall at this time a year ago, it was sort of between the UDFA conversation was, hey, Ivan Pace, he should have got drafted. He didn't. What happened? What's wrong? We found out nothing was wrong, except the league screwed up. Carter was a guy who was signed to a contract that included, and keep in mind again, undrafted. So these are pretty impressive. These are pretty impressive financial figures. $40,000 signing bonus, $340,000 guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So he got paid. What we found out was his conditioning was not, for football purposes, necessarily the best. He only played 9% of the defensive snaps in 12 games, mainly used on special teams. Now, here's what's interesting, though. He's had a season and now an off season to get his body right. So he has had plenty of time. There's no excuses now. You can't show back up and be like, I'm still not really prepared to play football.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing is that the Vikings sort of doubled down here. So Carter's the featured player here. Don't mistake this. But the interesting thing is, among the people who can push him now will be another UDFA signed this spring, Gabriel Murphy, who received a $25,000 signing bonus. Keep in mind, Carter's was $40,000 and $245,000 guaranteed. So well paid, but not quite as well paid as Carter was. Carter, I think, is now going to be expected, and he's not going to start, but he's going to be expected to emerge, and he's going to be expected to make a push, I think, to become a regular part of a rotation of guys that can rush from the edge. So I think that in the way this stacks up, this becomes a very important year for Carter to prove that he should have been drafted, much like Pace, and that the Vikings could now at least rely on him to be not just a game day active, but a guy that can apply pressure on game days.
Okay, I'll give you another PFF nugget here to pump the tires of Andre Carter, because I agree he is fascinating as a prospect. At one point 2 years ago, some of the consensus mock drafts, if you were to look at, this is late in the college football season, 2022, maybe into January, before combine and measurements and everything, he was projected late first, second, maybe third round, and he winds up going from maybe a fringe day one, lookout in day two, to being undrafted. But if you go back and look at his second to last year in college, so 2021 was his best statistical year at Army. Aiden Hutchinson was the number 2 highest graded pass rusher in the country, according to Pro Football Focus, behind Andre Carter II. So there was a time coming out of his second to last year in college, going into his last year at Army. Now, you're playing, Army's not playing the toughest schedule. You're playing Georgia State here and Liberty and UMass and whoever. But there was a time not that long ago where Andre Carter, despite a softer schedule, was considered one of the premier college edge rushers in the country, and he goes undrafted a couple years later. So the Vikings have had him in the lab for a year now, tinkering, Frankensteining him. Mm-hmm. We'll see what it looks like.
In the weight room as well.
In the cafeteria.
Yep. And
some protein, muscle milk.
And they paid him, Chief. They paid him.
Not now, Chief. I'm in the zone.
I'm in the zone. So yes, this to me is one where I would not be surprised if he makes far more contributions than we expected.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite ones to watch at training camp. Just see, and you'll probably know pretty quickly. Is he flashing in some of the team drills?
Can he beat his man? Oh, you know what's fun there? The one-on-ones.
Oh, is he flashing in the individuals?
The one-on-ones against the edge guys, against the O-line guys, to me, because those get nasty. Like that is
mean. That
is pride on pride.
Before Judd unveils his number one sleeper heading into training camp, yesterday was a day for golf.
Yes,
I don't know if yesterday watching the U.S. Open made you want to never golf or always golf. But if you're in the always golf camp, Dex, where should our audience take the sticks to?
Well, this proves my point that professional golfers are just like us, because when you're missing back-to-back consecutive 3-foot knee-knocking putts, it gives me hope that maybe I can one day be on the tour. Maybe I should be playing with Rory McIlroy a little bit. I actually like when that happens because, they're just like us. And I would be just like us at the Meadows at Mystic Lake. A great area to sink your putts. Maybe sometimes you lip out that one putt, but then it doesn't matter. You just tap it in. That's what happens to me on a lot of times. So book those tee times right now.
Put me down for a par.
Yeah, give me a 6 on that par 3. That's totally fine. Book those tee times right now. golfthemeadows.com. We finally have some great summer weather here in the Twin Cities, so go book that next tee time. Knock those knee-knocking putts down at the Meadows at Mystic Lake.
Also, we were talking about injury settlements earlier. Well, Nicolay Law is here to help you if you've been involved in an accident. The exclusive personal injury law firm of Purple Daily. And Russell Nicolay, very much all about the purple, by the way, as you can see on the YouTube channel, roaming through the stadium with his power suit, power tie. These are T-shirt and jeans folks, by the way, though, that, excuse me, are very relatable. They live in and around the Twin Cities area. They just happen to have law degrees to help you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. So start your path to winning at nicolaylaw.com or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. All right, the moment we've been waiting for.
All right.
Number one sleeper.
The number one sleeper is a guy who is a candidate to grab a position at which he could see extensive playing time. And not just extensive playing time, difference-making playing time.
Jaron Hall.
He is Nick Mullins. No, but you're on the right side of the football. You're on the right side of the football because the number one guy on my list is a guy that the coaching staff wants to love. They want to love, and they do love him when he's on the field. But sometimes they got to give him tough love because he's not on the field enough. I am talking about a guy that can make the 2022 draft look just a little bit more palatable if he comes through, and that is wide receiver Jaylen Naylor. Let me explain why. So I think we assume, and I think it might be mistaken, that the KJ Osborne number 3 receiver position behind Jefferson and Addison is going to go to Brandon Powell. Hey, it's going to be Brandon Powell. And I think Brandon Powell has a place on this team, no question. He knows the system. He's a smart player. He's a contributor. I'll just say this. Remember, we all didn't think that KJ Osborne was nearly as effective last year as we expected. The number 3 receiver in an offense like this, lots of times can be a starter. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to play a lot of snaps potentially. And I think they've got Jefferson and Addison. So the number 3 guy, no, this guy can be incredibly important. And in Kevin O'Connell's scheme, he can be a very important difference-making player. Now, Jaylen Naylor, when he's gotten an opportunity in training camp practices, when he's gotten an opportunity in OTAs this year, as recently as just a few weeks ago, looks like a guy who could play the part. The issue is he is hurt or unavailable way too much. A year ago in training camp, he missed 3 weeks, and he had been playing well. Also, I should point that out, because of a leg injury. Then he suffered, and this is not his fault, a season-ending concussion in December. He was good in OTAs, and he is vying for that 3rd spot now. KJ is gone, so this is not he's not going to get that spot. This is very much a no, he's got a good chance. OTAs, he was good. Minicamp comes, and unfortunately, he gets sick. Gets the flu, I believe, and misses the entire thing.
Yeah.
Kevin O'Connell had a pretty pointed, interesting response in talking about the 3rd receiver spot at the end of OTAs, and Naylor in particular, and how he has to stay on the field. If he can, though, one, he will flash. He has shown that before. And two, I think he has a very good chance not to bump Powell off the roster, but to certainly be the third receiver, and then Powell probably drops more, rightfully, down to the 4 guy. Jaylen Naylor is atop my list, and I think he's going to be given every chance. He has to stay healthy.
Okay. I think if I were to re-rank these myself based on who I am the most curious to watch, I agree with your Jaylen Naylor theory that the number 3 wide receiver spot, vitally important in this offense, in which they do run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and they don't have an established number 3 guy, so it's wide open. But I would say Andre Carter and Jaquelin Roy are the 2 that I think have the most potential. I think they have better pedigrees, even going back to like what their peak was in the pre-draft evaluation. Here's my 2 biggest concerns about Jaylen Naylor, and you hit on one of them. He's never available. Like he's always hurt. There's always something. I'm not even saying it's his fault necessarily. It is what it is. He's not the most durable guy. But here's the other thing, okay? In the NFL, you're not going to, especially if you're not a first-round pick, you're not Justin Jefferson-level talent. You're not going to be breaking wide open. He's not, at this point, he's not going to be a guy that runs routes in a way that is, with his speed and his agility, he's not going to be a Chris Carter route runner or a Justin Jefferson route runner. How does he create separation? How does he become a valuable piece of the offense? Well, this is a really interesting nugget. In college, across parts of 4 seasons, Jaylen Naylor only had 4 contested catches. 4 in like 4 years. Jordan Addison had 24 in 3 years across 2022, 21, and 20 at Pitt and USC. So can you catch a pass in traffic? Can you create separation at the last moment? Now, he was a pretty good deep threat. He had 13 catches his last 2 years at Michigan State on passes thrown 20 yards or more in the air. So I don't know. I'm the last couple of years I've kind of been down on Jaylen Naylor. Can't stay on the field, and even when he's been given some chances, it's like, I don't know.
But this is why this list is full of question marks here. Some young, some not as young. But we're also talking about, so the third receiver can contribute a ton, but he's clearly not going to have the talent of the first 2. So I guess I'm saying, I think in a perfect world, and it's a huge if he can play, if he can stay on the field, I think there's more number 3 potential there for him than Powell. So I'm comparing him to Powell.
Yeah. And I think the reality of Powell, we know who he is.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's the the best number 3 wide receiver in the league by any means, but like he's the known commodity. He understands how to get open on a third down. So we'll see. Can't make the club in a tub. That's what
I'm just trying to slot guys in where they could potentially slot in.
Mm-hmm. No,
and you could sort of tell the guys that the coaching staff likes, but they're frustrated by it, as opposed to the guys that the coaching staff just thinks are Jags.
Just
and,
a guy.
We need a glossary. There's a lot of Jags, man. There's a lot of Jags. You had 90 guys in camp.
It's a lot of Jags.
That's a lot of Jags to sort through and eventually cut, and then say this was the hardest day to cut these guys. You're cutting a bunch of Jags.
Who has more Jags? And I know there's more roster spots at with 90 players on a football team. The first week of spring training in baseball, or the first week like at OTAs in football. How many more Jags are you like looking at and running yourself into? It is, right?
Yeah. Like what's a baseball roster is like 50 or 60 or 6 or maybe 60 or something.
I feel like baseball has a weird thing though, because they also bring in all of these catchers to catch because of the multitude of pitchers, and like those Jags are like bat boys.
Yeah,
like they got like they are. There's no illusion there of I might get my chance, right?
Well, in baseball too, you at least have places to put the Jags. You can just like send them to the minors, AAA, AA, right? In football, you don't have that. You have a practice squad where you can put, 15 or 16?
Yeah, I think it's 16 guys now.
Used to only be 8 back when Sports Dad was covering the beat.
And you couldn't do veterans. Like
Yeah.
to your point, when Barr was brought back last year, he was demoted to the practice squad like every week,
Yeah.
and then they'd bring him back up as because now what you can bring up, I think you can bring up 2 guys per game. On Saturday, you promote them, and then there's the whole thing. Yeah, the practice squad used to be this special thing of, these are our prospects. This is our prospect pool. But I just love how coaches say, this is the toughest day. You know what's tough? You probably cut 4 guys you wanted. That was tough for you.
Be honest about it. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I've been
don't be like,
I've been waiting
Jimmy.
all off season to deliver this message to you. You are
We had
not
to
good
cut-
at football.
We had to cut Jimmy John, and now he's going to have to go get a real job at Jimmy John's. That just killed me.
That would be symbolic if that was an actual scenario. I do have one hard count thing for you guys here.
Green 18! Green 18!
Where we go around usually the NFL and the football world. This is going to be going around the world of Purple Daily. I want to, with the audience providing some suggestions, I want to help map out this dead period with some things to throw at you guys. So the hard count today presented by our friends at Dennis Kirk. All you riders out there, you Ragnars, go to DennisKirk.com. Check out over 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories for motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes, snowmobiles, all the top brands. They also offer same-day shipping on orders placed before 8 p.m. And free shipping on orders over $89. Also, check out the first annual Minnesota Garage Build Bike Show powered by Dennis Kirk, Saturday, July 13th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Running Aces Casino and Racetrack up just north on 35. The show will feature dozens of custom-built motorcycles, 10 class winners, hundreds of dollars in Dennis Kirk gift cards, local food trucks, a live DJ, and more. Find out more at DennisKirk.com.
Green 18! Green 18!
Okay, so at some point we're going to devote. We might have to do like 2 weeks for this because people have sent us and we've come up with our own ideas for rankings we can do during the June and July dead months. Like last year we did the top 25 Vikings of all time.
Yep.
We've done, and you can find a lot of these if you go to the YouTube channel, the Purple Daily YouTube channel. There's a vault section down at the bottom. You can find some of the old rankings we've done. But here are the current list of rankings that we can do between now and training camp on Purple Daily. Tell me what you guys think of this list, okay? And when should we start these? Most important current Vikings players. It's not necessarily the best, but the most important current Vikings players.
Okay.
Judd had this one last night in an email thread, ranking the former Packers who became Vikings. So like Aaron Jones is a Viking now. Brett Favre was a Viking. Ranking the former Packers who became Vikings. Ranking NFL coaches. Where does KOC rank among the 32 NFL head coaches?
Okay.
Ranking the number 2 wide receivers in the NFL to find out where does Jordan Addison rank among all of the number 2 wide receivers.
Have to do a dive on that one for sure, yeah.
The 10 most maligned people in Vikings history. That's from listener John.
Oh, I'd like that one.
Start working on it.
I'll take that one.
The your favorite all-time Vikings trades from listener Norton.
Okay. Yeah.
That's another deep dive one. Mm-hmm. And then listener Corey says, can you rank, you guys ranked the top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. Can you rank 33 through 64? So either the backups or some teams might have 2 quarterbacks that are better than anyone else's starters. And he wants to know, where does Nick Mullins rank? Where would Sam Darnold rank if you don't have him in your 32? Ranking 33 through 64. That's our current list of things that we have put out to rank between now and training camp.
Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think. With Darnold, I don't think he'd fall out of the 32.
I had him in the 32 on mine.
Yeah, I think he'd be in the 32.
It's not. I mean, it's not a.
Like he's going to start. I'm not saying he's Kirk Cousins.
Not a lock
at 13, but I think he'd be in. I think it's fair to stick him in the 20s. I mean, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys who are just guys at quarterback too.
I think maybe we start with 1 or 2 of these this week. Maybe
sure.
Tomorrow we can rank something. Maybe like
Sure.
Tuesdays and Thursdays we can because Monday there tends to be news from the weekend.
Yeah.
So maybe we devote Tuesdays and Thursdays between now and training camp to just ranking things.
Okay, and we could do a couple more during the 4th as well.
Yeah,
because that week there will be. I don't think there will be nothing. So
we'll just give you.
This
Yeah,
might
we'll just
be a
give
good
you
July 4th week assignment as well.
We will rank all of the special teams coordinators to tell you. If you guys have any other ideas for things to rank, let us know, and we will probably rank them between now and training camp.
We'll rank our snake draft anything these days.
Yeah, and the Friday snake drafts. Keep sending those ideas too. So, all right, that's a wrap on today's Monday Purple Daily. You have the Sports Dad's 5 sleepers to watch heading into Vikings training camp. This is Purple Daily. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.